Andrea Galvani, lovely to meet you. It's a great pleasure to meet you. Congratulations on your work and on being at Frieze 2018. You've been represented by Revolver Galería from Peru and Buenos Aires. How does it feel to be here at Frieze 2018?
It's really beautiful to be in London and have the possibility to present this project that was designed specifically for Frieze 2018. So it's definitely a beautiful moment, and the public is so excited about this project.
So tell me a little bit, you said that you designed it specifically for the show at Frieze with Revolver. So when did you start? It's pretty new, isn't it?
Yes, it's completely new
Fresh.
project. It's a completely new body of works. I started more or less 6-7 months ago to develop this project, and working with the proportion of the booth and thinking how to involve the public, and the architecture, the color, and the interaction of the work with the public was specifically designed for this section.
How many professionals did you have to work with to realize this?
Let's say I work with an architect,
Right.
with my graphic designer, and then there's all the production of the work
Right,
itself.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
I have artists and I have a staff of people working with me.
Well, it's very interesting because this is an installation, so you work as an artist but also as a curator with an architect, So
Let's
it's
say
kind of a multi-layered.
Yeah, for me it's really difficult to produce a work that is unrelated with the architecture.
Right.
So everything is site-specific project that take form around the space. And a fair is a really difficult environment, but it's a challenge to succeed with the communication of the work and to find a way to present a work that maybe was born to interact with a bigger architecture or a more simple environment.
Right.
And when you succeed and you see the public is involved and it works, is beautiful.
Engaging with it, and I see that there's a great reception to your work here. People are visually very much engaged with the installation.
Oh yes,
and of course,
it was a never-ending. From the first moment, people was engaging so much, being part of the installation, visually participating into the installation itself, which is beautiful.
it looks very powerful, and of course, there's the mathematical equation there. Can you talk us through a little bit the concept behind it? How did it start?
So the work was born through dialogue, like a conversation I had with the physicists in over the course of the last 4 years. I started this amazing journey into the space and time and the distance between planets and what surround us invisibly. And I'm really fascinated by numbers. Numbers are around us but are invisible, and most of them are unknown.
Right.
So let's say this is constellation of numbers that in a way change our way to perceive the space, to imagine the universe, and to intend the distance between planets, and the architecture of the universe is inside these numbers. But some of them are really specific. For example, there is a couple of equations that explain express the maximum amount of energy, solar energy the sun is producing, and the maximum amount of solar energy that reach our planet. So
In proportion to.
in proportion. So in between these two numbers, there is life, the possibility of life. So there is power in between numbers. Numbers are floating, flying around the architecture, and they are expressing and speaking between each others and surrounding the public and interacting with him.
it's very interesting what you said. You have had a dialogue with a scientist. Art having that dialogue with the scientist and he said that it's been going on for about 4 years. That dialogue that has informed your work. Do you intend to kind of carry on this series and sort of blow it up, sort of depending on different spaces? What have you got in mind in terms of ambition for this?
I have to say that since the really beginning of my career, I was always interacting in a different way and with science, and I'm still like fascinated, inspired by science, and so the work changed.
Since you were a child?
Yeah, since I was a child. My father was a surgeon, and so I grew up in a really scientific environment.
Right.
So I still have the
Be inherited from that, it's in your blood.
exactly.
But you went off to do fine art.
So the magic of like interacting and collaborating with people that work in different fields is that you don't know exactly when and what that is going to produce, and if that have to come to an end.
Yes.
I don't feel that at the moment, and it's a really productive moment. I start a collaboration with Eloy Yon Beato.
Right.
He's a physicist. Was born in Cuba but live in Mexico City.
Right.
And I did the first piece with him that we present in Basel 2 years ago.
Right.
And it was incredible what people how people react to the piece. The piece was 36-meter long equation describing a black hole perimeter.
Right.
So long calculation. In that case, one unique calculation describing how the black hole distort time and space.
This is really beautiful, and when I look at it, for instance, this particular installation, although it's an equation, very much scientific, somehow it's full of poetry.
Yeah, I mean,
There's a softness to it, and there's a delicacy to it. I don't know whether, actually it's just how it speaks to me on a personal level. And I'm not from the scientific world at all. I'm a historian.
It's beautiful what you're saying. Like, let's say when I design it with the intention to kind of like have a cloud, and suspend the moment of the creation, the thought suspended over the booth and over the public, in the same way that they actually are when we are thinking about things. When we are inspired, we have
the energy is there.
Like we have this moment, like some like key moment that is there but is not there. Let's say both there are not yet a shape.
Absolutely.
So this is what the work is now. Is there, is still suspended, doesn't have a shape yet, is transparent, luminescent, and light. That's what I want.
It's in a process of development. That's very beautiful, actually. That's what I meant by poetry. That you have a very interesting trajectory. You've shown at the Whitney Museum in New York, Biennials in Moscow. The Deutsche Bank has bought your work. You're Italian, you're from Verona, but you live between New York and Mexico City. And this is also about Latin America. So how do you think, as an European, as an Italian, living in Latin America, how do you think the Europeans see Latin American art or artists generally?
Ooh, it's a really complex question.
Because you flirt with the two
I think
worlds.
What I can say is that the way I was perceiving Latin America before I started living in Latin America was different. And I've been 12 years in New York City, and then I decided to live in Mexico City because Mexico City is, in a way, a really similar city. There is difficult to say this, but let's say New York and Mexico City, they're kind of similar in a way for the energy and the possibility and the enthusiasm that you live when you're there. Latin America is, in general, is a place of possibility, and that's what I perceive it from the first week. I realized
You
that
fell in love with it.
I fall in love with Mexico City from the first moment, and it was my second love after New York City, and I decided to try for a few months. I got to studio, and then after a couple of months, I just started thinking maybe I have to stay for a year, and then time passed by, and I'm still there, and I'm like doing a lot, and Mexico City also became a platform. Geographically speaking, it's really close to New York, and is
easy to travel.
Easy to travel to London, so flying to Argentina, Brazil. So it's a really good location with technology and also nature. Like in a couple of hours, you are in the desert.
Incredible.
And then
landscape.
you are on the mountain, and then you got snow and vast sea. It's really interesting and productive for me to be there.
Does nature, in case Mexico nature, inspire your own work?
Yeah, in Mexico, the geography and nature, the landscape, people, everything. Not only Mexico, also traveling in general is a really productive experience for me.
Right.
So it's quite complicated sometimes to be like.
You're an immigrant twice.
I know, but also you have to think that I'm traveling constantly. Like probably I fly once a week or every 10 days.
Right.
Most of the time because I move a lot.
Yeah.
And so luckily sometimes I can get a moment to contemplate, to work and be in the desert. I love the desert. Baja California Sur is my magic place. So
has a spiritual connection with it, perhaps.
Yeah, it's a place that all of us need solitary and kind of like
switch off,
spiritual
retreat.
Yes,
perhaps.
Yeah. So I do that sometimes.
I just had a recent conversation with Louisa Strina, the gallerist from São Paulo, and she said something really beautiful. I asked her a question about, the way the Europeans make art and see art, and the way Latin Americans do. And she, of course, being Brazilian from São Paulo, she said, and she's owned her gallery since the 1970s. She turned around to me and said, well, we don't have academies in Brazil, so we don't follow rules, and that's rather refreshing. I think that's something about Latin America generally that.
Yeah, as I was saying before,
there are no rules.
I fall in love with the possibility, sometimes the anarchy of.
It's a good word,
Latin America. I start when I got the first studio, I decide one day for another to remove 4 walls. And I did it. Didn't need to speak with anybody.
In England, that would have been impossible.
And then I opened a patio, and I started filling up with cactus, and I changed completely everything with a few money, and it was like, wow, this is still possible. This is really possible. So then, that gives you an idea about the possibility that the work can be made with less money and
more creativity and freedom.
Freedom that you need it. You need it today because it's the only way to actually invent a new language, or at least try to do it.
Right. And in terms of future projects now, do you intend to carry on this particular theme and expand it and show it somewhere else? All over the globe, or is there something particularly new that you want to bring to your discourse?
I have to say that the work is always expanding and taking different forms, sometimes more, let's say, public, and sometimes more private. So this experience in Frieze helped me to understand a lot about the interaction of a huge number of people moving fast around the fair and interacting with the work. So it's definitely important experience for me, and the work is expanding like constantly, and sometimes it's returning, sometimes it's changing scale. So difficult to say what I'm going to do in 2 years, because I'm constantly evolving.
Yes, of course.
And I'm in an exciting moment. I just presented my first monographic book, worldwide distribute.
Fantastic.
With,
I look forward to reading it and buying it.
Yeah, please do it. It was like 14 months of work, and it's so dense. 460 pages.
I want to see it. Yeah, absolutely.
Please.
This is really good work. Congratulations on that. I like the fact that you're present here and you're watching viewers interacting with your work. Many galleries and many fairs, you don't see the artists there getting that response from the public, so this is really good. It's been a total pleasure to speak to you, Andrea. All the best.
Thank you so much. It
Thank
was
you
a
very
pleasure
much.
for
Good
me
luck.
too.